Hello and welcome to Season 12, Episode 27 of the Ubuntu podcast. It's Tuesday, the 8th of October. It's a bit chilly, and in this week, we... in the show this week, perhaps, we are going to have some community news and events, and some news headlines, and a new segment. That might be a bit generous, but it's part of a segment, and it's new.
No way to sell it, Mark.
Joining me this week are the usual crew of Martin.
Hello.
And Alan.
Yo, yo, yo. I had to say that because I'm in a crew now, apparently.
You are so hip.
But you could have gone for the pirate angle.
What?
No.
Like a crew on a pirate ship.
Right, yeah.
Oh, anyway, Martin, what have you been doing with yourself since last we spoke?
I've been playing a lot of Lego Worlds.
What is Lego Worlds?
Lego Worlds is the game that my daughter loves above all other things in this world.
Is it like Minecraft with Lego by any chance?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I mean, we don't play it in like the adventure mode, which I think would be more Minecrafty. Or Minecrafty even.
Minecraftian?
Yeah, so we play it in sandbox mode where worlds get spawned and you have access to every character, brick and building device that's open to the game, and you can go into this world and make it your own. And my daughter has an amazing imagination for what she wants to recreate, which usually involves us in split screen, basically flattening the landscape entirely and then creating a whole new world of her design. It's brilliant fun.
Cool. And what are you playing this on?
On the, what's it called? The NVIDIA Shield. So, well, technically we're playing it on Steam, but we're streaming it to the NVIDIA Shield, and we both sit in the front room, controller each, the NVIDIA Shield streaming a cloud instance of Steam. And it works remarkably well. Sorry,
so the NVIDIA Shield is plugged into your TV?
Yes.
I see, yeah, so you've got it's an interface to Steam.
Yeah, and you'd never know. You know, as far as Agatha's concerned, the NVIDIA Shield is a games console, and that games console has Lego Worlds on it, and when she invites her friends round, they play Lego Worlds. You know, it's quite transparent, and it boggles my mind every time we do it, because I sort of get these little moments where I think, crikey, this is being streamed, and you just don't know.
So it's not a native Linux game if I wanted to install it on my Steam box, I assume.
Correct. It's a Windows game, but it does work very well under Proton as well.
Oh, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, Alan, what have you been doing?
I have been playing with Thinkpads.
Oh, that seems unlike you.
Never.
Got a couple of ThinkPad X61Ss.
I do not know what those are.
Those are 4:3 aspect ratio X series, so they're the kind of one that doesn't have a bezel around the keyboard. You just have the keyboard and then a small palm rest, and that's it.
Oh, I know. You're right. Where it goes like right to the edge of and it's like a big square box. Yes.
So compact design.
Yes, compact and bijou, Mostin. And the thing I did with it, well, two things. I bought some replacement batteries for them because the ones I had weren't lasting very long. And I've actually started using them a little bit more, even though they're quite old and crusty. But I did a reinstall on one of them, and I've installed Ubuntu from the net install image, and I've put no graphical desktop on it. I previously had Ubuntu Core on it, but Ubuntu Core is a little bit too restrictive for a real development workstation, as it were, because it's all read-only stuff.
You've had Ubuntu Core on that for some time, because I can remember you taking that laptop to OggCamp last year with Ubuntu Core on it. Is that the same one?
It is, but I'll probably take it again this year. But this time it will have a proper, in inverted commas, Ubuntu.
Command line only?
Yes, it's still command line only.
Or text mode only, rather.
Yes, and I've installed all my apps, and I've got, I say apps, applications, and I use Byobu and I have it all set up to have my email and my IRC, and I have sync thing on it to synchronize all my documents and everything.
Do you plug in a modem and dial up to Demon Internet?
It has Wi-Fi, I'll have you know, and you can control Wi-Fi from the command line using Network Manager has a thing called NM2E, NMTUI.
Oh, yes. That's really good.
Didn't you get that integrated into Ubuntu Core by pestering people?
Yes, I did, and now I don't use it. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Oh, and I bought them both batteries from eBay, and that means that they actually last a decent amount of time, like 3-4 hours.
Are they genuine ones or reproduction ones?
No, they're just a box with a bunch of 18650 cells and boxes of liquid lithium flapping about inside it. Not quite, but yeah, they work okay.
And now it's time for some community news and events. What's up first in the community news, Martin?
Rhys Davies, who's a product manager for Ubuntu, and the Ubuntu robotics team have started a monthly State of Robotics blog, which they've posted on the Ubuntu blog. And you might remember that Kyle from the Ubuntu robotics team was on the podcast a few episodes ago.
So yeah, this is a really comprehensive roundup of lots of things that have been going on recently in the robotics space.
So some of the things I've been up to is doing automated and to some extent manual sort of code audits of ROS1 and ROS2. And if you listen to those episodes a few weeks back, you know, ROS is the robot operating system, and it's like a big collection of middleware to enable you to create robots relatively easily. And you know, that team have identified a number of new CVEs that exist in ROS1 and ROS2. And not only did they raise those bugs in the upstream projects, but then the Ubuntu security team waded in and fixed all of those and provided patches for them as well.
Oh, well, that's good going.
Good citizens contributing to upstream projects. Who would have thought someone who works for Canonical would do that?
I know. It's amazing, right?
Unfathomable. Yeah.
And the team were also at RosCon Japan a couple of weeks ago, talking about, Ubuntu as a roboticist's platform. And we gave some talks there, had a little robot that we were showing off, how you can use Ubuntu to, control manipulation arms and stuff. And one of the team, so if you're a Python developer, you might be familiar that there's Python 2 and there's Python 3, and it took a long time for people to migrate from Python 2 to Python 3. In an oversimplistic terms, that exists in ROS with ROS1 and ROS2. So the robotics team have also created a bunch of cheat sheets for ROS2 to help people get familiar with ROS2 and move their work from ROS1 to ROS2.
Oh, cool. Like a sort of Rosetta Stone thing.
Right.
Yeah, I like those kind of things. Alan, what's up next?
So we've mentioned UbuCon that's happening soon, very soon, in Portugal. And I saw this blog post, which I thought was interesting because normally blog posts about technical events are all about, the talks people have going on and, the people you see and demos and stuff like that. But this blog post is called Sintra Parks and Places Cultural Visit Program. And they've put a whole schedule together of places to go and things to see with links to OpenStreetMap and stuff for people who are attending, but specifically for people who are attending before the actual event starts. So it doesn't actually start until this weekend as we're recording this, but people are already there like yesterday and today, and there's a whole bunch of events going on.
So in recent years, I've gone to UbuCon as a holiday. Because you get to meet all of your mates from the Ubuntu community from around Europe at this thing, and you get to hang out with them. So I've been going and using it as a holiday. And I'm not alone, because these guys have gone out there like 5 days before the event starts to go out and have a cultural experience together for the days leading up to the event and, go out, see things. I saw photographs today. Some of them went down to the beach surfing.
And in other event news, Scarlett Moore has been to Academy, which is the annual KDE conference, which I think was in Milan in Italy this year. And she's done a blog post and linked to a roundup of the talks and sessions that were going on there.
Yeah, I thought it was useful to put this in because, it's a little window on the world of an event that's all about bringing together all the KDE developers and the people who work on KDE applications. And it's good to see the perspective of, someone who went to Academy, because it's a good thing to point to next year if someone's trying to figure out if they want to go to an Academy and what goes on there. So I think people who go to events should write up these kind of trip reports more often, and their details of what happened and whether it met their expectations, because other people who are going to go to these events need to know for next time about the next time the event is on. So I think it's great.
Yeah, there's some really interesting things going on there. Scarlett spoke about some of the Birds of a Feather session that she was part of, talking about things like syncing Neon with Debian packages to make sure that things are up to date in both directions. And there's some information about some of the talks which were sort of focused on various objectives of KDE and goals. So there was stuff about looking at baking privacy and security into apps as like the most important consideration above things like even usability in some cases. Like, even though people might not like it, it's important that they get the privacy and security right first, even if it makes things harder to use in some cases. So that's interesting to see that sort of declared as a worthwhile trade-off. Also, one that sounded really interesting was a focus on onboarding new users and some of the ways they're doing that. So they've adopted Matrix as a communication platform, GitLab for hosting the code and the project, and also something called the KDE Welcome Team, which sounds really interesting. An actual dedicated team to onboard people into the community, which I think a lot of open source communities don't do as well as they could. And having people who you can actually direct new users and say these people can tell you how to get involved, rather than just pointing everyone to the
IRC channel.
Yeah, the IRC channel or the /getting involved page or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
That's a really nice touch. I like that.
And apparently there was also a demo of Plasma and Mycroft being used to voice control a car.
Oh.
And yeah, Jen will talk about Plasma on embedded devices, which sounds cool.
Next up, Heather Ellsworth has blogged about adding Snap metadata to upstream projects. And the reason why I picked this one out is because Heather's just joined Canonical. And I met Heather in Paris a couple of weeks ago, and she had thrown in at the deep end, just starting with the company at a company engineering sprint. So she gets to meet everyone. It's the perfect opportunity to get to meet everyone that she's going to be working with. She's fantastic. It's really great. I'm really happy for the desktop team to have Heather joining, or her nickname, which is Hellsworth, which I quite like. I do enjoy that every time I see it on IRC.
Yeah, I've had a few people say to me, who's this Hellsworth that keeps popping up in IRC channels? I imagine a little bit intimidating, but yes, what a fun way to start your career in a new company. You get flown out to Paris, and your first, introduction to your team is an engineering sprint for a week. It's a bit hardcore, but a fantastic introduction to the team.
So her blog post was about why you should put your Snapcraft YAML in your upstream project, which obviously, given that's, something I do for my job, I was quite pleased to see written up and spread far and wide. So, it's a good first start, good first blog post. I hope there's plenty more.
Yeah, one particular thing I liked about that post was highlighting that not every app maintainer is going to be experienced or necessarily particularly enthusiastic about keeping all their Snapcraft stuff up to date. So might not want to accept it into their upstream repository, but there's a community of Snapcrafters out there who are happy to help maintain this stuff upstream. It's important that it gets upstream. So, people have a vested interest in helping make sure it gets there. Martin, what's next?
The juggernaut of the multimedia industry, GStreamer, is holding their annual conference in Lyon from the 31st of October to the 1st of November.
It's weird. You don't think of GStreamer being a juggernaut of the multimedia world because it's just a bunch of, you see it as just a bunch of libraries that give you like codecs and the ability to play video and stuff. It's weird. It's weird seeing something that obviously people are very passionate about and that they've worked on for a long time and that is an important part of the stack. You know, it's funny how people are super passionate about just one very tightly focused part of the stack. I found it interesting.
So this GStreamer conference marks the 20th anniversary of GStreamer being a thing. So that's pretty impressive. And following the conference, they're going to be having a hack fest where they're obviously going to be working on GStreamer and also Pipewire. And in my simplistic view of the world, I think Pipewire is like Pulse Audio 2.0. That also can include video as well as audio manipulation.
Now, Martin, you wanted to introduce our new segment.
Yes, we've created a new segment. It's called Career Corner. We should probably have a sexy jingle in there.
What, of cars careering round corners or something?
Yeah, car wheels screeching, that sort of thing, you know, cartoon glass smashing, that sort of thing. So we're going to pick one from the Ubuntu careers page this week. So the Ubuntu project is hiring for an Ubuntu desktop software engineer specifically focused on WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux. So if you are skilled with WSL or Ubuntu or both or Linux and Linux, then you might want to apply for that. And I have it on good authority that this might include a splash of Hyper-V as well. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, or maybe you know somebody who'd be interested in that, then let them know. We'll have a link in the show notes. And if you know of any jobs that our listeners might be interested in that we can highlight, drop us an email to show@ubuntupodcast.org and we'll be happy to feature them in future episodes. And if we get deluged with lots of jobs, then we'll provide links in future show notes.
Hopefully open source related jobs would be preferable, not just like my local chip shop's hiring or something like that.
Although
it's amazing how many bakers I had applying for jobs at data center suites in the past.
And finally, some events. The Linux Application Summit is still coming up. It's the 11th to the 15th of November in Barcelona, Spain.
Yep, and they've published the speaker schedule on the website, which we'll link to in the show notes.
And CGL, the Seattle GNU Linux Conference, is on the 14th to 15th of November 2019 at Seattle Central College, Washington
State, yes.
USA. And they're seeking volunteers.
That's right. Yes, they're specifically seeking volunteers for the event, and they say to email them at participate@cgl.org. That'll be in the show notes as well, in case you can't pass it via your ears.
Yes, that's seagl.org. And now it's time for the news. And first up in the news this week is Martin.
So apparently, UK internet usage peaks at 9 o'clock in the evening on Wednesdays, or Days, as it says in the show notes.
Who wrote that?
I don't know who slurred it.
Yeah, so this is that the UK has an public organisation called the Office for National Statistics, who collect and report on all kinds of statistics and trends on various aspects of public life, I suppose. And they've now started monitoring the traffic levels through some of the country's key internet exchanges and analysing the trends in those traffic levels. And this is the first sort of report to come out of that.
What? Why Wednesday?
This is the question I have.
It seems to be sort of that time in the evening on weekdays in general, but particularly midweek. So I'm wondering if this is maybe people streaming a lot of stuff.
So is there something that's exclusively launched at 9 p.m. or thereabouts on a Wednesday in the UK that is responsible for this?
I don't know. I think it it says it peaks at 9 o'clock. It doesn't say it suddenly goes to 100% at 9 o'clock. It peaks. So I would think that it ramps up towards 9 o'clock. And that's probably because people with children, their kids have gone to bed by then. And it gets to the point when they're sitting down in front of the telly and they flick Netflix on or sit and play games or surf the internet or whatever they're doing. But probably video on demand. Like that's when the 9 o'clock watershed is the kids have gone to bed. You can put some like programs with naughty words on the telly and, that kind of explains it to me, but I can't think of anything else that would do it.
No, I can. So as we record this, it's 8:57. Surely it's everyone that has a podcast recording their podcast.
Well, today's Tuesday, so no.
Damn it.
But yeah, it did say that weekends and bank holidays are quieter. So, you know, people are obviously, they have more time. They go and do other things than sitting in front of their computers and TVs.
There are other things?
Not everyone are enormous geeks like we are.
Yeah, weird.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I know. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, there was some graphs there showing the sort of general range of data that we're talking about as well. So there's a graph of the monthly average rate of data transfer, which is between 240 and 290 gigabits per second, depending on which month you're looking at.
This is across the backbone.
This is looking at these major exchanges.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, lots of data.
So I wonder if that rules in or rules out Netflix data because they've got their like edge clusters now at the various ISPs, haven't they?
It was saying that these exchanges are to do like a lot of what they do is data between sort of the internet and content distribution networks. So there is probably that kind of thing that we're looking at. Alan, what's next up?
The Atari VCS architect has quit the project. So you may remember the Atari VCS being a computer, Linux-powered computer that looks a bit like an Atari 2600 that was crowdfunded a while back. And it's had a few false starts. But the Register have a lengthy piece published today where their byline is "Retro Console a mess, may never launch," sources allege. So yes, it looks like it's in a bit of a state, but then we kind of knew that. There's not been any positive news articles about this console other than people just regurgitating all the marketing press and the lovely photos. I've never seen anything that's gone into any analysis of this project yet, but then it's not out yet, so it's a bit difficult to do that.
Is this the one that's sort of got like teak veneer on it that looks like it's been fabricated by G-Plan?
Well, it looks like an Atari 2600, so yes.
Right, okay. Are there actual photos of this? I thought they were all renders. I didn't know that there was actually like a thing.
I have seen things that look very much like photos, but they could well be an engineering sample. They've backed out of going to events before now, so it's entirely possible things aren't quite ready and they're, I don't know, with the best will in the world, you might think, well, they're just like super perfectionists and they want to have it looking perfect before they take it to an event. And, what if you take it to an event and you get a huge footfall of people who come past your stand and they see it crash, or, they see the janky edges on the case or something. And for something that's crowdfunded where they may not have a tremendous amount of money, oh no, wait, they've got millions. So, they really should have something to show for it by now.
So they made a bunch of sort of feature statements, when it was being crowdfunded, one of which was it was going to support streaming services. So that's been pulled now, so the likes of Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu, that's not going to be part of it. But as I remember it, these were people that had bought a license to use the Atari name. It isn't actually Atari.
Well, like many of those 80s or 70s for Atari brand names, they've been passed from pillar to post, and none of the original lineup own it. It's no different than any of the others.
It's a bit sad though, because Atari is a well-known name from the past. It's a quality retro brand.
Well, is it though?
will Atari ever be a trusted brand?
What you're saying is, will they ever make another ET?
Am I? No, that was awful.
I think to assert that Atari is a quality brand is a stretch. It's a brand that people are familiar with. It's a brand that has a logo that's iconic and a font that's iconic and is very nice on a T-shirt.
And a certain amount of nostalgia.
Yeah.
But the games were terrible. Every generation of console after the 2600 is obviously better than the 2600. Nobody in their right mind in 2020 wants a 2600.
I agree.
You want something that plays a whole gambit of games, but you don't just want a 2600. You want something better than that. And they've touted all these features over the years, and it's not really come to pass that any of them have landed. So, this whole shopping list of things that they say it can do, well, we'll have to wait and see because the thing isn't anywhere near finished.
I agree that the 2600 was less than stellar. And I suppose when I think of Atari, I think of the Atari ST home computer. I think of the Atari Lynx console, handheld console, which I had, and also the Atari Jaguar, which I also had. And, those have a very fond place in my recollection of, the gaming past as, quality devices.
So did either of you back this project?
No.
Oh, God, no.
No. I saw this one marching over the hill from day one.
My radar is pretty good for spotting crowdfunders that are likely to fall apart, and I definitely didn't back this one. So we should wait and see. You never know. They might pull it out the bag, and it might be that, one guy quitting is not a big deal because,
he's only the architect. It's fine.
Yeah, he's only the guy designed it.
He's only the guy, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Right. And finally this week, Calibra 4.0 is out. So this is the open source ebook management and reading and conversion suite, I suppose you'd call it. And it's the first major release in 2 years.
I've always thought it was Calibre. Is it Calibre or Calibra?
It's Calibre, yeah.
Really?
Well, we know this because we interviewed the author, Covid Goyal, back in season 3 or something of this very podcast, and I think we introduced him as Calibra, and he said, actually, it's Calibre. We were like, oh, all right.
I disagree. So, yeah, one of the reasons that it's been so long since the last major release is because they've had to rewrite some key parts of the application because they've had to move rendering engine. I think the old Qt WebKit engine was deprecated. So they've now had to rewrite things like the ebook viewer and the PDF output stuff, which has obviously taken a long time because these things do take time. But there's also been some other work going on with there's a content server part of the app, which has had other features added to it, which were previously, I think, only available in the desktop app. So things like conversion and metadata editing to make it a more fully fledged management tool, which is cool.
It's a funny application. Like I remember hearing about this maybe 2010, something like that, somewhere around there, where when Amazon Kindle started becoming super popular and people on Windows needed a thing to manage all their ebooks, and the Windows using friends that I had all used this thing. And when we interviewed COVID back years ago, he said it's I get complaints about the UI, and even now you get Linux users and people with a design bent who look at it and say it looks like trash. But the Windows, for some reason, the novice Windows user who just wants a thing to manage their books and get it on an e-reader, they love it. It works. The big button interface works for them. So, and he is the only gig in town. Nobody else. There are no, if you said what ebook management software is there are a few little Electron apps that are kicking around, but this is the one that everyone uses.
I've been aware of it. It's in my, consciousness, but I've never used it because I've never had an ebook.
Well, a friend of the show, Stuart Langridge, I believe, uses Calibre, and I don't think he has an e-reader either. He uses it to manage his ebooks, and I think he reads books on his phone.
Yes, because it does sync. Yeah.
So you don't have to have an e-reader device. It's just a way of managing your ebook content, basically. But it has so many other things. Like it can go and get the news headlines and turn that into a book and put it on your device first thing in the morning. So when you get on the train, you can read the news. And, these days you use a smartphone for that. But in those days, your ebook reader was disconnected and there was no way to read the news on it. So it's certainly a very comprehensive bit of software.
Yeah, there's a plugin for it for if you have a Adobe Digital Edition's DRM encumbered ebook that will liberate the book from that, which is actually, it's bizarre. You install this plugin and it uses Wine to fire up something in the background, and suddenly your ebook's unencumbered. It's kind of some black magic in the background, which I don't fully understand, but it's quite clever. And
it's called software, Mark.
Yes, no, I know. I'll learn how all this stuff works one day. But yes, it's quite cool, I think, even though, the design might not be the best, but it's so functional and it's, intuitive enough to use. So, I like it. And that's all of the news this week.
We love getting your feedback. If you've got a comment about something you hear on the show, why don't you drop us an email on show@ubuntupodcast.org.
And that's all for episode 27. Join us next week when we'll be discussing our wish lists for Ubuntu 20.04 LTS.
Ooh.
That'll be fun. Yeah. Maybe think of some of your own wishes and send them in to us, and we can discuss them in a future show. You can email show@ubuntupodcast.org, or you can tweet @UbuntuPodcast on Twitter.